All right, everyone. Yeah, I'm so excited to be able to be here with you guys today. Thank you guys for showing up. I'm excited to just share my knowledge that I've gathered from a decade or more of just clinical practice and helping people strengthen their immune systems and deal with many other chronic inflammatory disorders. And so, yeah, thank you for being here so much. So we're going to do quite a few things today. But really, this series this is the first one actually of the Vibrant Life community classes. It's going to be once a month and we'll be on different subjects. And they're all going to be free, and it's really my way of giving back and really just to, connect with community and share some of the knowledge that I've gathered along the way. Because I've really found, especially among this pandemic, there just really is quite a lot of misinformation right now. And this is leading into just a lot of confusion about really what the evidence is with certain natural medicines, especially. And natural medicines are the underdog. I always kind of, I'm voting for the underdog in many ways. But this underdog is really, this is a pretty potent underdog. There's a lot of things that it can do to support us in this current environment right now amongst the pandemic, but also we're going into winter as well. And so, we're going to dive in. I'm just going to share my screen so we can get started here. Okay. All right. And so we're going to be doing a lot of things today. We're first just going to talk about the immune system. We're going to talk about coronavirus. We're going to talk about very specific natural medicines to build up your immune system, but also to treat things and herbs that have antiviral properties that you can use at home very easily and make yourself. I will also be going through just, a demo at the end about making an elderberry syrup. This is one of my favorites. It's very easy. Kids love it. There's a lot of benefits, and it's just been used for hundreds of years by herbalists in Europe. And so we also are going to save some time at the end. So if there's specific questions that I don't address during this time, I'm happy to answer. That's really a point of these classes as well, is to reach out. And if there's very specific things that you want to know for you and your family that would help you, I'm sure it would help other people as well. All right. So we're going to learn how to fortify our immune defenses here. And so we want to keep our immune system strong because, we want to live a vibrant and beautiful life. And right now, amidst this current environment, there's a threat to some people. And, we'll go into more just, the reality of the threat. And I think that for most people, we have this beautiful immune system, which we're going to talk about today. Because I think by just understanding how amazing the system that has evolutionarily developed over thousands and hundreds of thousands of years to do what it does, we can utilize this and maximize this to stay healthy, even amidst a pandemic. And so, this is the thing that's on most people's minds. So we're just going to start here. And a lot of the things that we're going to be talking very specifically for coronavirus are actually very just in general going to be helpful to supporting immunity and addressing any kind of respiratory virus or cold or flu that may happen. And, these viruses are different, but, a lot of these viruses are also very similar as well. They're all enveloped, or, coronavirus, like influenza, is a envelope virus that has a single strand of DNA in it. And so this is something that, can enter the cell through a specific receptor called the ACE2 receptor in our lungs. And this is why it really affects the lungs more so than other places. And this isn't the first coronavirus. Of course, we've had other ones in the past as well. And actually 7 to even 15% of all colds are coronaviruses. So, this may be a little different, it's a little new, but there's a lot of new strains all the time because of evolution. And so, this is a natural part of the process here as well. And there are certain risk factors. Obviously, age, it's a pretty steep incline. It's less than 1%, I think, below 70. But then, once we get to 70, it bumps up to 8%, and at 80 years old, it goes up to 15. So definitely age is a risk factor there. People that weakened immune systems, that have a lot of, immune inflammation already, that chronic infections, Epstein-Barr, if they have a herpes virus that's not under control, they have autoimmunity. These are kind of different predisposing factors that you also may consider. Then those that have any kind of lung or respiratory issues, of course, as well. Smokers, asthma, COPD. And then the last big one is anyone with cardiometabolic disease, obesity, heart disease, diabetes. You have that in your family, but mostly it's not about your genetics. I really believe in the power of epigenetics and your diet and your lifestyle. And so very much cardiometabolics are connected into many things that are in our control. And the last risk factor is really the main point I've been talking about this, because these are things that you guys have all learned already through this process, I'm sure. But there are certain drugs that increase the risk of coronavirus and just getting it, but also having complications from it as well. And these are some of the two most popular drugs on the market, that make billions and billions of dollars every single year, and a huge part of the population are on them. So I'm just going to mention them at the very least. So if you or your family members are on these ACE inhibitors to lower blood pressure, or if you're on the statins to lower cholesterol, you might, talk to a doctor or talk to, always welcome to message me as well. I can send you some of the research here that can just increase the risk. And so the research is still being done, but from what I've seen so far, I think that's a good recommendation. But also, uncontrolled blood pressure or uncontrolled cholesterol is also not a good thing. So you want to address those things, and you can use natural medicine as a replacement, but you don't want to just do it untreated. Okay, and so, how I designed just choosing some of these very specific nutrients and herbs for you guys to really address coronavirus, really prevent it and then treat it, really is using a couple different steps here. So number one, things of documented antiviral actions. And so, of course, we don't have all the research on this, specifically this strain of coronavirus, but we can look into the data and the pharmacological data on humans, but also in animals as well. And then also traditional medicine that's been used for thousands of years to address these same complaints. So we're pulling from a variety of different knowledge here. And, a lot of this is evidence-based, and all this is going to be linked to you guys at the end if you guys are interested. And so things that can actually inhibit its replication and kill it, etc. And then number two, things that actually build our own immune system, this beautiful thing that we have that can actually be very effective at dealing with any kind of pathogenic invader. And so, we'll be talking about nutrients and natural immune tonics, but of course, diet, lifestyle, stress management, all that stuff is so extremely important as well. And we are going to touch upon that. At the end, we'll talk about more the roots of what really the roots of our immune system are, and how to really strengthen those root systems, because really by far that is the best way, rather than relying on any drug or even natural medicine, just to be simply healthy. Okay, so number three, we want to support the systems that are most affected. So we'll be talking about herbs and natural medicine specifically for the lungs and the upper respiratory tract, things that will soothe and heal a lot of that irritation and inflammation that can happen with COVID. And then lastly, we'll be using just other natural medicines to ameliorate other symptoms that might happen. A lot of these histamine reactions and things that can happen, and that complications leading to fibrosis, pneumonia, and other kind of acute respiratory syndromes here. So, we're going to start off with just a very quick basis of the immune system. We have different aspects of the immune system. And the first part is this external barrier itself. The skin, is to actually keep things very physically out. But then we have the mucosal membranes that are very sticky, and they have tons of these antibodies, these IgA antibodies that attach to them and signal our immune system to get rid of them. And then internally, we have, two different aspects. We have the first line, which is our innate immunity. And this is the first line because it never needs to actually see a particular pathogen before to be very effective. And so when we are doing this here, a lot of times people talk about, oh, this is a new novel coronavirus, so our immune system has no protection. I think that really, really is deceiving, and it's incorrect because we have this beautiful innate immune system, it's called. It's the non-specific, that anytime that any kind of virus will come in, we can identify it and then we can actually start killing them. We produce these things on natural killer cells. They're amazing things that will just destroy anything, whether it's cancer cells or a specific pathogen. And then number two here, we have the actual specific immune system. And so these are our antibody response that many of you are familiar with here. We have these beta cells that make these antibodies to be able to address, any of the invaders, and then tells our innate immunity and these other immune soldiers to attack and kill this thing. And so if we've seen something before, we can very easily just start producing these antibodies to guide the immune system here. And so a lot of the herbs that we'll be talking about today are going to be acting on these various aspects of this immune system. So this is why we're just briefly going over it. And so we're going to start with vitamin D just because it's so easy and it's so cheap, it's so affordable, and it's free if you get it from the sun. But unfortunately, people are just so deficient these days. Over 75% of the population have inadequate levels, and that's defined by, the allopathic system that really doesn't care about even optimizing levels. Really, they're just saying, they only want you to be over 20, which we'll talk about. But so many, 75% are even below that. And, probably practicing, I guess, for over a decade now, I've almost never seen a vitamin D ever in optimal ranges, ever, without supplementation of some sort. So it's, especially people that are Hispanic or African American, they have just much higher risk because it's much harder for them to be able to create the vitamin D. They need to be in the sun sometimes 3 to 4 times as long because the melanin in their skin slows down that vitamin D production. And so 40% are dangerously deficient. So that's, under 10. So that is something serious to consider, is that all of us are deficient. This is one of the easiest and cheapest ways to be able to do this. And any winter, we should start right in September time. This is a perfect time to really start mega dosing and getting this level up. We'll talk about that more in a second. But vitamin D is our connection to the sun, connection to source, and it actually is a potent hormone that regulates the expression of hundreds of genes. And so it's really able to orchestrate a whole lot, and it is able to strengthen our immune system by creating over 200 antimicrobial peptides. These are different antibiotics that your body can produce itself to be able to kill whatever invader is coming into your system. It also strengthens our innate and our specific immune response as well, as we just talked about. But also it acts like cortisol in a way, just it kind of suppresses inflammation, calms down the immune system very well too. So people with autoimmunity or hyperinflammatory disorders here, they're taking away energy from the immune system. Vitamin D can also just calm and relax that down. And also, interesting enough, it really helps with cardiovascular risk and depression, anxiety, and just, so many other disorders. When we go into some of the meta-analyses here of 50 randomized trial, vitamin D3 significantly reduces all-cause mortality. Wow. Very few things that can significantly reduce all-cause mortality overall like this. And it acts on so many different levels, from autoimmunity to cancer, cardiovascular, neurological, and metabolic disorders as well. And so, the risk increases, you can see so much higher when you're having low levels of vitamin D. One of them here, almost 20 times increase with dementia. That's pretty important there as we're getting older in age, to keep our vitamin D levels up. And so some of the newest research that I scanned through, just since the pandemic started, there's been a lot of research done specifically with vitamin D. And people initially, I've been a vitamin D proponent since the beginning. I will claim that. And, it just makes sense. It's obvious, because it's going to boost all aspects of your immune system. And it's so cheap, So this is something I've been talking about since the beginning. There were some concerns, that ended up not being real concerns here. I'm not going to go into some of the ACE2 receptor. But really the data is in, and it's pretty convincing. So let me tell me what you guys think here. So one of them, low vitamin D increased risk of infection of COVID-19 by 45% and hospitalization by 95%. And so vitamin D can reduce your ability to get the virus in the first place, allow it to take hold, and then of hospitalization of actually turning into a more acute situation. So by 95%, that's pretty huge. And so another one, after 10 days, patients with severe vitamin D deficiency had a 50% probability of dying. While those with vitamin D deficiencies that are way under 10, now this is a pretty extreme deficiency, had a 5% mortality rate. And so I think this is said a little wrong, but basically it's saying that it's 10 times reduction with those that have vitamin D and not a deficient rate. They're at 50%, and those that are really deficient at 5%. So this is a big, big reduction here. And so next one, vitamin D deficiency is associated with a 6-fold increased hazard of severe course of disease and a 15-fold higher risk of death. Kind of saying what we're saying already here. And out of 50 people, this is interesting, they actually use acute mega dosing of vitamin D3 here. You know, when they were given the high dose here, only 1 needed treatment in the ICU. In contrast, among the 26 people with COVID-19 who weren't given that D3, 13 of them needed to go into the ICU. So that's like a 97% reduction is what they're saying. So this is pretty amazing to me, just because it is a free molecule we get from the sun, 1, but 2, it's so cheap. And so really, you know, for less than $5 per each person, you know, this could end the pandemic, I feel, in a lot of ways. Just, you know, the government sponsoring this and giving this to the people. What a world would that be? And there are governments that are doing similar things. We'll talk about Thailand, how they're giving angiographists and things like that up. But, you know, vitamin D is so cheap, and under really $1 a day would get you way up for the rest of the winter. So how to optimize vitamin D, just a couple of things important for you to know, because there's different forms of vitamin D, D2 and D3. Vitamin D3 is the most bioactive form that's been transformed by your kidneys and liver to do what those amazing things it does. Vitamin D2 sometimes is given to you if you get a prescription from your doctor, for example, in the pharmacy, etc. Even they're starting to come around and doing more D3, which is great. But the D2 has actually been shown to you know, actually increase some cardiovascular complications and different things here. So D2 is not good. A lot of times that's what's put in the milk and the other kind of nut milks and things as well. It's not vitamin D3, so you can check that. And so while the RDA recommended daily allowance for vitamin D is 400 IUs, that's a ridiculously small amount, and that's really just not to get rickets. But we don't want to just not get disease. The absence of disease is not health, right? So we want to optimize that. And so right now, winter months, I say 10,000 IUs daily. I think that's a great, very safe thing to do. And then, you know, other times of year, if you're getting sun and things like that regularly, you have no autoimmune disorders and things and other inflammatory disorders, you might bring it down to 5,000. So, you know, again, that's a general recommendation. Everyone's a little different though. And so certain people just have the genetics to need a higher value and maybe can't convert it as well, for example. And so this is why we do blood testing here. And we can look at genetics and things very specifically at that vitamin D receptor to see how potent, you know, that the vitamin D works on your system, if you need more or less. But the blood testing is the best way, just to make sure we know where you are. And so this is just a nice little graphic here. And so this is kind of a newer way of looking at kind of what is considered deficient and what is optimal. So again, this is not what the, you know, CDC or anything would like that, but so this is what I agree with here. And so deficient, you know, that is, you know, less than 50 nanograms per milliliter. And that's over double, because they're saying that's less than 10 or less than 20. You know, I find in my practice that they're above 50, you know, they're pretty solid and pretty good. That's like an optimal good range right there. For people that have autoimmunity, if you have cancer, you have heart disease, you have just some kind of chronic condition of inflammation, which, you know, all disease really has inflammation as that, you know, connecting cause. You're going to want that to be higher, almost just into 100. So I wouldn't go over 100, but it's not going to be damaging to go over 100 there. And it is something that's pretty hard to do. You'd have to be doing pretty high doses, you know, sometimes to see it, but it's pretty rare. And so, you know, one thing I want to talk about is because vitamin D is so fat soluble, it makes it really easy to mega dose and get this level up pretty fast. And so, like that study that we saw, that acute dosing, when someone came in with coronavirus into the hospital initially, they gave them a 300,000 IU dose. 300,000 IU. So I have these, 50,000 IU super potent vitamin Ds that, are very highly absorbable in the best form. And so that would be maybe easier. You might take 6 of those instead of taking, who knows how many, 100 different, some of them, these capsules are only 1,000 IU. So you have to take 300 of those if you're trying to do a mega dose like that. And it showed it to be safe and there would no be issues. But you wouldn't want to do that. If you did that every week, right? Then that would lead into toxicity. And so that's an interesting study. I've never seen it dosed that high. I definitely recommend that you can do some mega dosing though when you are sick. And so say you start getting symptoms of some sort. This is when I pop a 50,000, or maybe I even do 100,000, which is maybe 2 of these more high dose capsules here. And you want to do it with fat, of course. If you don't do it with fat, it's not going to absorb very well. It's a fat-soluble vitamin. Because it's fat-soluble, it doesn't just get shed away through the urine. You're actually able to absorb it pretty well. And so when you are very low and you haven't been supplementing for a while and winter is about to come, it's a good idea just to mega dose of vitamin D, whether it's, you get a liquid or you get just a regular capsule and you take a good 100,000 for the next couple of days, just mega dose, get it up a little bit faster, and then you can continue the 10,000 IUs from there. So hope that makes sense here on how to use vitamin D and optimize it. Again, we'll have time for questions at the end. And so now we're going to go into more nutritional support for immunity, a lot of these immune tonics themselves. And, vitamin D is the first one, that's the obvious. And then, there's something like reishi, which is a medicinal mushroom. I think a lot of these medicinal mushrooms have really amazing data on their immunostimulating and modulating effects. So what I mean by that is that it doesn't just stimulate the immune system, it balances the immune system. And so reishi is the mushroom of immortality. It's been used for, again, thousands of years. And it has some beta-glucan content, which is an irritating kind of molecule to your immune system in a way. But it's interesting how it works is that it stimulates your immune system in almost a homeopathic way to get way stronger. So some of the data says that it increases those natural killer cells, those soldiers of the innate immune system, by over 50%. And so I use this for a lot of things. Reishi, helps with cardiovascular issues, which is connected with COVID. It's very relaxing and calming, and it helps stimulate and strengthen all your soldiers of the immune system, and it has some antiviral effects as well. So I like that. Astragalus, I would just put it in the same category. I think that if I was to choose 1 or 2, especially herbs, I would probably choose one of those because they are just tonics to strengthen the system. And there's a lot of research with astragalus and traditional Chinese medicine, and they were the first ones to have the outbreaks. There's lots of data and research that they're using astragalus very successfully. And then as far as the next one goes, zinc is really a helpful one because so many of us are deficient. The best way is just right now, just start getting that zinc level up, just like vitamin D. So all these nutrients, that's how you would use them, or you want to kind of build them up in the system. And, zinc is really interesting because it inhibits the binding of the enveloped virus into the body. So it inhibits it, secreting and pushing that virus into the cell. So it can prevent infection. And that's why, zinc, when I prefer it, is actually in a lozenge form. And this lozenge form here, I want to make sure that real quick, I think that there might be some other people that were waiting here. Kind of forgot to check in on that. I apologize. Okay, there we go. Okay. Usually have some support here, but I'm doing this one solo, so thank you for being with me. So to those who just welcome. Sorry that I didn't see you initially. We're just going into we just went through vitamin D. We're going through some of the other herbs and natural supplements to support your immune system for immunity. And so reishi and astragalus, again, these immune tonics extraordinaire as far as herbalism goes. And then zinc, that inhibits the virus from being inserted into the system. And so these zinc lozenges is a great way because it coats the throat, which is, one of the main entry points for the virus. And so it's nice to have around, when you're going out and about your day, just to build up your immune system. Vitamin C, that's also really cheap, really affordable, and does so many different things here. I mean, vitamin C has quite a few effects. I mean, it definitely builds the immune system, but further on top of that, it's really been used a lot in addition to its role in just quenching a lot of the oxidative stress from this battle with COVID that leads into this cytokine storm that is so damaging. And a lot of people that have mortality from this is because there's this excessive hyper-inflammatory immune response. And vitamin C, given in especially high quality forms like a liposomal vitamin C, or in these little nanoparticles just go directly in the system under the tongue, or something like IV vitamin C has been used very regularly to quench this fire. So this can be very helpful. And also vitamin C increases the lymphocyte function. So those guys that make all the antibodies themselves and all the things that help actually eat the virus itself as well. And so vitamin C is another obvious one. You can get lots of foods with it and citrus, but you can also supplement. We have, curcumin and quercetin. This is a nice histamine stabilizer as well. So this is kind of more of an adjunct. I wouldn't say that this is key, but if you're having a lot of those symptoms and things, sometimes this can be just helpful symptomatically. We have things like glutathione, which is the master antioxidant detoxifier of the body and the system, and its precursor NSC, which we'll talk about more. We have things like colostrum, which is really great for your immune system. It's from the first 16 hours or so after a cow gives birth. It produces a really amazing substance, which we'll talk about some of these substances that are in there. So one of them is called lactoferrin here, just really strengthens that immune system. So here are the more tonics here, and this is something you do for prevention, things to build the immune system even right now without symptoms. And just so you guys know, I'm writing down all these dosages and things, and I will try my best to make them available to you. Going into dosaging, and there's many things to think about, and we usually mix and combine these things to just simplify things. Things have lots of these things that have a lot of these all in one to make it just a little easier. And so going to the next one here. Okay, and so this is going to be more treatment for COVID-19. And so the first one I'll talk about is actually echinacea, because it can be a nice preventative in a way, but I really like it more for treatment. In herbalism, I was taught actually that echinacea, if you use it just constantly all the time, the benefit for your immune system is not going to be as potent, because you're stimulating the immune system, but if it's always stimulated, then it just kind of goes back to a more normal state. And maybe it can be actually draining for the immune system if you're doing that every day. So echinacea is one of those things that you want to do right when you start having symptoms. That's how a lot of these things are going to be. But echinacea, as far as treatment goes, really reduces the severity and the duration of illness. There's been study after study, and it's actually, there's been some studies on coronavirus itself, not this coronavirus, another strain of coronavirus, but again, these are very similar viruses in the way that they act. And so, again, I can't say for certain, none of this is for certain, but through the research, we're seeing we have so much research on echinacea, and it is cool because it not only can really have a lot of antiviral properties very specifically, but also boost that immune system at the same time, because it's got a nice, good properties of both actually. So this has been used by Native Americans by hundreds for hundreds and hundreds of years here. And then we have andrographis. So andrographis is interesting here. This is something that they call the Indian ginseng, and it's been used by the Thai government in actually the last SARS outbreak, that they found a lot of efficacy for this. And so this time around, the government was giving it out to people with really huge benefits. So andrographis is one of my favorites, and it's the top of my recommendations in a lot of ways, because not only does it stimulate the immune system, it has a really strong effect of just with the respiratory tract as well. And so it has believed to have 4 antiviral properties, okay? So it prevents virus penetration to the cell, like zinc. It reduces viral replication, it boosts the immune system overall, and it ameliorates lung inflammation as well. And so this is where this is a little unique. It's got so many different properties all in one. So really love andrographis. Sometimes we'll mix it with echinacea. So elderberry, okay, this is one of my favorites. It definitely tastes the best, and this is why we're going to talk about how to make this very simply and easily at the end. And elderberry has been used in Europe, and the elder plant is all parts of it, the leaves and the twigs and the berries all have different medicinal benefits. And elderberry is great because it's a really good treatment, and it has a lot of antiviral properties here. And so this is definitely something that I would recommend as well. Talk more about it at the end when we're doing the recipe. We also have something called monolaurin that comes from coconut oil. So this is one of the active ingredients there, but also comes from breast milk. So the baby will get this lauric acid and convert it into this super antimicrobial substance called monolaurin here, and you can take that. Olive leaf extract's been used by, in Greek medicinal system. And anytime we think of a virus, really olive leaf extract is a pretty broad spectrum antiviral. Colloidal silver. So colloidal silver is very unique, and it's always nice to have some colloidal silver. I bought myself a generator just to be able to produce as much as I want, and you just have some silver wire, and I'll be able to make enough for me and my family and friends and community for who knows how long. And so colloidal silver, they realized that when they put a silver coin in a milk jug, that it would not go bad as fast. And so, we've known this for a long time, that silver has these kind of antimicrobial properties. It's used in medicine of burns and other kind of healing situations. And the silver is just kind of in a colloidal form, so it's just dispersed through a liquid solution. And so it's very gentle, it's very innocuous. You can use it in very sensitive areas of the body. And so colloidal silver is great just to ingest, but you can use it topically, you can use it for eye infections, you can use it for ear infections. And, it's great for kids for that reason. With my child, he likes elderberry a lot, but sometimes he doesn't even want that, but the colloidal silver doesn't really have much of a taste, and I can just add that into other things when he's needing some immune support. And again, this is nice because then when he has any of these infections of the ears or eyes, you have something on board just to treat it right away that's not caustic. And then it prevents you from having to use antibiotics, which of course, is helpful sometimes, but ideally you're trying to do everything in your possible potential to prevent you from doing that because of the consequences and the side effects long-term, especially. I would say one thing about antibiotics is that, yes, you can take probiotics afterwards, but when you've killed so much of your microbial diversity, just that one antibiotic, taking a couple, strains in a probiotic at such a small dose is not going to fully, it's better than nothing 100%, but there are consequences to these antibiotics. And then we have things like IV liposomal vitamin C. People are using ozone and things as well to be able to really get to these places and have some more acute effects. So lots of different options here, and many of these are just very easily things that you can make yourself, things that are available. You can buy them in tincture form. I'll give you guys some specific recommendations as well on some of these. And you don't need all of these, so really, I would choose maybe a couple from this first list, get your vitamin D and zinc levels up, and then you might have just a basic medicinal mushroom if you're feeling you're more at risk. If you're healthy and good and strong, maybe you just do vitamin D, right? And then, but if you are feeling like you're more at risk, you definitely want to increase some of these tonics here. This is probably the best way to go just to prevent you from having issues and severity in the first place. And then when you do, have any symptoms, the most important thing is right away you start treating it. And when you treat it, you're actually going to do it a good 3 or 4 times per day. So you might keep on the supportive stuff. You might actually increase these doses, increase the frequencies, have zinc, vitamin C, and some of these, tonics here like astragalus, and then you might add in some of these very specific treatments here like elderberry, andrographis, echinacea, colloidal silver. Again, you don't need all these, maybe just 1 or 2 of these things can be really great. And again, so how natural medicine works is really very much dependent on frequency and dosage here. And so you might be able to take a pharmaceutical once per day, but natural medicine, you need to take it pretty regular, especially in the acute phases. you're going to take it 3 to 4 times per day. If you're really wanting to, you know, stave it off, you know, every 2 or 3 hours, you can even take a dose of some of these things and just really stop it from ever progressing and having the issues here. And so I've had numerous patients so far that have had, were positive for COVID and that contacted me and did these very simple recommendations and were able to stave off, and it wasn't really that big of a deal. And so again, everyone's different. There's different risk factors involved, of course. But when you are and to have these things, you know, at home and they're ready to be able to, you know how to use them, you're empowered with this knowledge, you really can prevent these complications from happening. Lastly, we'll talk about just respiratory soothing support real quick. And so licorice is a really amazing thing. You know, it's in candies, but there's a root that you can make a beautiful tea out of. You can mix it with ginger, for example. Ginger is an amazing thing just for winter. It can help with, open up the lungs. It brings circulation. It helps with digestive. That's a lot of things here. But the licorice is a natural sweetness. So, whenever you add any kind of herbal formula, licorice is a lot of times added as just an activator of the rest of the herbal formula, and it helps the adrenals by actually preventing you from making, not needing to make more cortisol. It extends the half-life of cortisol, which is the fire extinguisher of the body. And so this helps with energy, but helps with the inflammation inside the body and inside the lungs. So it's very soothing to coat. So we use it to coat and soothe the gut, coat and soothe the respiratory tract. Licorice is a great one there to have around, and it tastes delicious too. And then we have mullein. And so mullein is simply a plant that is very furry. It's like it has a very cool texture on it. I'm growing some actually in the back. I'm pretty excited about it. This is the one thing that you can smoke. It's been used in Native American medicine things, for example. It's actually good for your lungs in many ways because it coats and soothes it. And so it softens things, it coats things. You can make a tea, you can add it to the licorice. And then something called NAC, N-acetylcysteine. So this is an amazing molecule that's mucolytic. So it acts kind of like a guaifenesin, which is like a drug that just breaks down mucus. It also is just really helps with detox, helps with dealing with oxidative stress, prevents any of the kind of cytokine storm kind of fear that you might have if things are getting more severe. And it makes glutathione, which is the master antioxidant detoxifier of the body. It's also really cheap. Almost all these things are very cheap. And so this is a great thing. And if you have respiratory risk factors here, like COPD or asthma, then this is something you want to take daily to start building your immune system here. And so again, because we're not going into the minutia of all the dosages and how much the frequency, each of these is that's a little technical for a short webinar, but I've actually written a very detailed just overview here. And this overview is just detailed, so we don't have to go into it now, and you can learn more about it. So that'll be there for you. It looks like this. And so I just go through, I wrote an article that goes into detail about some of this. So we have an innate immunity that basically has astragalus. This one has astragalus and reishi and some other things just to strengthen it all in one. I like that. There's a very high dose vitamin D here, some liposomal vitamin C, some other stuff. So you can just play with it and look at it. And if I was to say just to get one thing though, this acute immune boost is awesome because it has everything in one. Has the andrographis, has the elderberry, has the zinc, D3, C, and A. So a lot of times, it's just nice to have that around, and that kind of just covers the bases as well. So you guys will all get a discount today. You guys will get 10% off of everything. So hope that helps, and you guys will have what you need to be healthy and not have any complications or issues here. Okay, cool. And so let's go into the next piece of this here. And so now we're actually just going to talk a little bit more about just the root sources of why immune systems are weak in the first place. And I find this really interesting. This is why I moved from labeling myself an integrative medicine doctor to a more functional medicine doctor, because I really believe in the more functional medicine approach here long term. So integrative, we're using all these herbs and things in a very specific way and intelligently using their pharmacology and traditional use to overcome the virus or to strengthen the immune system, do something very specific. But really, 80% of immunity, as we'll talk about right now, comes from the gut. It comes from your intestinal health. So do 80% of your neurotransmitters. And so, instead of taking all these supplements forever because your immune system's weak, it's better just to go to the root system, the center of your immune system, and just do some work there. So we're not going to go that into the super detail here, but just want to show you the big picture here is that, you know, when we have a lot of damage to this very thin layer of the gut, it's only half the size of cellophane. So when there are, you know, lots of inflammatory foods, and there's NSAIDs and Advil and aspirins and antibiotics and steroids just put holes in the gut, when there's all these different inflammatory markers, infections and overgrowth and candida, and then all the pesticides and the toxins and the metals that are in our environment right now, these just damage this very thin layer, and all the microbes, toxins, and food particles start coming into the system. And this is very stressful for your immune system. 80% of it is all right here. And this is leaky gut, intestinal permeability. And this is the root cause of all inflammation in the system. And inflammation is just a hyperreactive immune system that's not happy. So many of our resources are put in here because it thinks it's being constantly attacked, that it doesn't have the resources to go to other places in the body. So really, you know, this is one of the most important things, just to strengthen your gut health, heal up that gut, recolonize, repair, kill off some of the overgrowth and fungus. We usually got the 5R framework of gut restoration to do that in functional medicine. And lastly here, just reducing your toxic load. You know, we each have this bucket, and this bucket, there's a lot of things in this bucket, you know. Stress is part of this, you know, having some of those overgrowths, or if you have different other viral infections, herpes and things your body's always having to handle with. A lot of times these environmental toxins are one of the biggest things. It's definitely the biggest part of this bucket for most people these days, because we live in a really, really toxic world. And then when you have cortisol shot up because you're in fight or flight mode, and because you are stressed and, you know, just depressed and all the things that are going on with this pandemic and even before, that's going to really stress your immune system as well. So anything that calms and relaxes and grounds your nervous system is also going to strengthen your immune system, of course, as well. And then nutritional deficiencies and things as well. So a lot of times that these things just start to overfill, creating lots of inflammation and a lot of the symptoms that we see. And so really it's about emptying the bucket here. You know, this is another main, more functional medicine approach to really strengthen your immune system and every other system of the body. And so garbage in, you know, certain things about the foods and stress, reducing belly fat, environmental toxins, we want to reduce those. And we want to make sure that we're supporting liver detoxification, and make sure we're going to the restroom every day. It's one of the most important things. If you're not going every single day, you're reabsorbing a lot of toxicity, which is very stressful for your immune system. And so, you know, we're going to go through this lymphatic system, how to stimulate this just very easily, just through some lifestyle practices to boost your immune system here. And this lymphatic system is the sewage system of the body. So it follows very similar to the circulatory system, but it's just a little expanded in a way. And it's where all the cells have access to secrete some of the toxins from just regular metabolism or through detox and through your body is just kind of processing of these metabolic waste. And so we don't have a heart through the lymphatic system, so it's very much has to do with movement. The more you move, the more we move this lymph system here. Actually, I saw a lecture one time that they had like an electron microscopy of a cell, and they showed that every time that you laugh, you know, the laugh, it kind of burps out just some of the a packet of toxins from inside the cell. It's very interesting to see, even at this more energetic level, of feeling joy, being happy, allows the function of our body to increase as well. And so ways to just stimulate the lymph system here. And so we have some just ways to be able to do this, just movement and exercise. It doesn't have to be intense, but just waking up in the morning and just doing some jumping jacks and doing some stretching here, getting some blood moving so much, just get that stagnant energy, getting that lymph moving here. And then waking up and having some lemons or limes in our water, some coconut water, a green drink of some sort here, apple cider vinegar, these ways, and having a good 24 ounces for a lot of people is going to be very healthy. Just get those minerals in as well. Maybe just throw in some Himalayan sea salt, lots of options here. Jumping and shaking, so, you know, just shaking, dancing, rebounding, which is a very specific kind of trampoline-like thing you can buy. One of my favorites and one of the fastest ways, I think, to wake up and kind of just get the lymph moving when you're not feeling well, especially if you have a lot of toxicity and things. This is also, all these things strengthen the immune system, which is why we're talking about. So do a contrast shower. And so 2 to 3 minutes of hot, 2 to 3 minutes of cold. You always want to end with cold, but you know, definitely the hot just opens up your circulation, and all the blood flow goes to outside towards the skin. And when you do the cold, all the blood flow is shunted back inside to your internal organs, to your immune system, to just stimulate detox and movement of your lymph system. And then infrared saunas, just sweating daily. That's how we get a lot of these toxins out. There's inversion tables, dry brushing, massage. There's lymph therapists and things as well that you can go to. So this is some top lymphatic stimulation tips here. And so before we do the elderberry demo here, I just want to talk about just the upcoming classes. So again, we're doing this once a week or once a month. Not once a week yet. I'm not ready for that. Even once a month, in this hectic world, and having a kid and living life, as you guys all know, can be stressful. So we're just going to do this once a month here. It'll be on different subjects. And so November, we'll be talking about getting off the blood sugar balance, or sugar roller coaster, and how to maintain blood sugar balance. And this is just connected to everything. It's connected into hormones, our adrenal function, our energy, our nervous system as well. So a lot of people don't fully understand that. And just by optimizing this thing very easy, using diet and lifestyle, how to eat, not just what we eat. Then we'll be talking about just more specifically going into these root systems of a healthy gut, healthy body, healthy life. So it's the root source of inflammation. So let's just make sure it's healthy. And last one will be on toxicity, or how to thrive a little bit better in this toxic world. So in February of next year, we will be doing another round of our Vibrant Life Community Cleanse. And so I'm really excited about this. We've done this one time before when the pandemic just started. We found some really amazing stories and breakthroughs, and everyone really just had a big decrease in their symptoms. And the reason I created this is that functional medicine can be pretty expensive sometimes, and especially among the times that we're in, there can be strains there financially. And so really I've created a program that we can do this all together as a community, to have the support, to have the motivation, but we're doing it just for the cost of the supplements. There's no cost of consults and labs and all these things, because really when you strengthen the root systems of the tree, like we see the body, all the other systems start improving and falling back into place, and then we can optimize from there. And so I've kind of created a create your own adventure in a way, where there's a basic framework, and then we have different decision points, and we have specific things to kind of refine and customize it for you. So if you guys are interested in doing some more of this kind of root work of fixing the gut, we do that for 1 month, and then we then just detox the body. So if we can kill off this overgrowth and repair the lining of the gut, we can really get these toxins out at a cellular level, are automatically all of our health and our immune system gets much stronger. So this is really the most bang for the buck, cost-effective way to just get your health in tip-top shape. Hope you guys will check that out. You can go to drdavidmorcom.com to learn more. We're not enrolling yet. It's just you can get on the wait list, and we'll email you once it opens. Okay, and so there's a lot of other things here too. There's a weekly hour Q&A with me with anything you need to ask. The supplements are all included as well. We have these virtual sessions. We're doing mindfulness and things. You have discounts and things as well. I'm not going to go through this, but lots of handouts and portals and technologies to really support your healing process here. And then the best part, the community support. I got more healing from the cleanse that I did with everyone than I've had on other cleanses, because I just felt so motivated to really do all the work, and not cheat. And the community was really, really helpful for me. So we're going to talk about making elderberry syrup now. So that's very exciting. And so let's see here. So someone's joining us now. Lauren, welcome. You're coming just for the end here, just for the demo. But this is the fun part. I think your kiddo will love this. And so we're going to switch this over here into my cell phone, and I'm just going to show you this. This is pretty quick and pretty easy. That's why I'm showing it to you guys, because I think that this will really help. Okay.
So we are gonna go into the kitchen here. Again, I don't have a whole camera team here. I'm sorry, we're just at home. And I'm gonna turn this around and show you what we have here. And so, elderberry syrup has been used for hundreds of years in European herbalism and has all the benefits that we talked about of strengthening the immune system, but also having lots of antiviral properties, and also in a package that's very sweet and tastes very good. So I think it's great for adults and children alike. So I'm going to teach you how to just make this real quick. And so the first thing is that we are just going to get some of these elderberries here. These elderberries, very small, and you can buy them from a variety of places. I know Natural Grocer, you can buy elderberry just in a packet all at once for pretty cheap. You also can go to Mountain Rose Herbs. That's a great place for just herbalism of any sort. You can buy a pound at a time. It's very affordable. And you start with these elderberries here. And so, this elderberry, we have currently about 4 ounces, which is half of a cup. And so we're going to throw this inside right here. Okay. And then here, we want to add exactly about 4 times the amount of water to whatever amount of elderberry you're using here. So I'm trying to make this dynamic, so depending on how much you want to make. I'm not trying to make a horrible amount because it only lasts a certain amount of time when you're not using alcohol. I am going to show you guys a way to preserve it naturally without having to use alcohol, so you can still use it for children, etc., and not have that alcoholic taste. But still, you don't want to make so much of it and then it just goes bad. So you make it a little bit at a time. It's pretty easy. So I'm adding 16 ounces of water, and water quality is important because anything you put in medicine, you want it to be of the best quality, of course. And so then we have some other options here. I mean, cinnamon is a pretty common one to add the elderberry syrup. If you just wanted to leave it just elderberries, that would be fine. But throwing a cinnamon stick in there can be a nice way to impart some other flavor. I also really, really like ginger. So we can cut ginger and use just regular raw ginger, or you can use ginger powder as well. And ginger powder is a little more potent, so you don't need to use as much. But I just got about a thumb amount of ginger and threw it in there. And everyone's different. Some people like ginger, some people don't. Some people want it way stronger. So kind of play with this. This is an art. Herbalism is an art. And so I'm giving you the basic recipe, but you can kind of play with it yourself. Lastly, I have some cardamom seeds here. And so these are very nice. Just give it a little flavor here and make it taste a little bit better. Sometimes we'll also add some cloves in there. Clove has a lot of medicinal properties to help preserve it even more and just have it a little even more of a potent effect for our immune system as well. And so, we're going to start putting this here on the, let's see here. So you basically are going to heat this up, and when it starts boiling, you're going to then put the cover on, and you're going to let it just really be on low and simmer for about 30 minutes. And then after the 30 minutes, we're going to let it steep for another hour. Because, when we are making medicine, we really want to get as many of the medicinal constituents as possible. And so just giving it a little bit more time to really extract into that syrup is going to be really helpful. So 30 minutes of just kind of simmering, and then an hour where you're actually steeping it there. And then when that's ready here, I'll turn around, I'll show you how to do this a little bit here. And so, we just make basically a contraption like this here. And so this is going to be how we're going to be extracting this. And so you get some kind of funnel into the jar where you want to keep it here. And then you have some kind of mucilin. This is a nut milk bag that I use, and it's easier to clean up, so I really like it. It doesn't stick and die and things as well. So this is something that you would put on top, and then you would strain it, and then you would pick this up, and you would just squeeze all that good, yummy syrup out and put it into your container. And then when you have the syrup here, you want to basically just measure the amount of syrup that you get, and then you want to take 50% of that and add some raw honey. And the raw honey is the secret here in a couple of different reasons. So One, it's really acting as a natural preservative, so we don't need to use alcohol and still have a really good stability and shelf life that lasts for a while. But then also it's very soothing, has its own medicinal benefits, especially if it's raw. It's really good for the immune system and soothing the throat and helping with, other cold and things as well. So we have that added benefit there. It just makes it sweeter and tastes good as well, obviously. So 50% of whatever the syrup is, you're going to add that in, and then you're going to mix it up. I would wait for the syrup to cool a little bit first, simply because you don't want the rawness of the honey to be destroyed if it's too hot. So once it's, come down, let it cool for a little bit, once it's collected, then add your honey and you can mix it there that time. And then you can really just put it in the refrigerator. And if it's in the refrigerator, it'll last a good month or two, no problem. And if you want to preserve it longer, if you want to be able to have it for the whole season and you don't have kids and things, you can just add some alcohol. So generally 2/3 you make it the syrup, and you do 1/3 of some kind of alcohol like vodka, etc. And that's going to really just preserve it so it stays well without needing to remake it constantly. So that's a little bit about the elderberry syrup here. And so let's restart. We're going to go back and close up here and go to questions.
Okay. Okay, great. So here we go. Well, thanks guys for being along this journey with me, and I would like to just open it up now to any questions that you guys might have. So you're welcome to just unmute yourself when you have a question, and when you don't have a question, you can just mute yourself respectfully so we don't have any feedback. And so anyone that's actively on this right now and have any questions about anything we discussed, specifics on supporting and treatment and specific things on COVID, or on some of the root work that needs to be done, or on making the elderberry syrup, or if there's any other kind of immunity related question that you have to ask me, I'm here to answer it for you. And then we'll close off. Okay, well, it seems like I answered a lot of the questions, but I'm sure that there's some here. Just know that any particular recommendations and dosages and frequencies and very specific recommendations of good quality particular supplements and the tincture forms and different just kind of options here will all be sent to you guys if you guys are interested. Because again, we didn't really go through the minutia of how to dose it and how to combine it and things, but really it can be very simple as well. So just
Dr. David, there's a question in the chat from Travis.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't have the chat open, so someone's.
It says,
great.
Is colloidal silver okay for people who are allergic to silver?
Yeah, and so people that are allergic to silver, first of all, that's a sign of something. And so when you start getting more and more sensitive to the world around you, especially if there's a lot of metal that is part of the allergy, a lot of times there's other things inside your body causing this hyperreactivity. So a lot of times we see that people have metals in their system and they start getting chemically sensitive and also sensitive to other metals. So could look at something like that. It's rare for someone to be allergic to colloidal silver, but I would, if you have an allergy and you have trouble breathing and you have anaphylaxis with silver, I probably just would not mess with it, or just do a very small dose and test it. Really, there's nothing better than just experience, and you just have a Benadryl nearby, and if it's something that you really feel like you want to test out, that could be helpful, because maybe one day you really need to have colloidal silver. It's the only thing available. So it's echoing right now. Okay, well, thank you, Travis. Appreciate that. I'm not sure. how to pause that, because it seems like, okay, you know what, I think I know how to do this. I can just mute this. There we go. Is that better? Awesome. You're welcome, Travis. So Anouk, welcome. And just if you have any questions about the immune system, you're welcome to ask it, and any of you here. And we'll just give another minute here.
Yeah, I actually have a question. I just jumped over from Facebook, but I kind of missed a big chunk in the beginning. And is there a way that I can see the first half?
Yeah, it's all going to be recorded, and so it is on Facebook if you are connected to me on there. But yeah, maybe we can just I'll send you a link or something like that. I think some of these people will send a link and a follow-up, and I can just send the recording to you guys. No problem. You're welcome, Anouk.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, it is just getting past 8, and so thank you guys so much. If there's any burning last-minute questions here on immunity, please let me know. But otherwise, we'll just end this session. Thank you guys so much for coming to our first Vibrant Life community class. And we will definitely do more of these, so just stay tuned. Connect with me on Facebook or on Instagram, or sign up for the newsletter if you want to keep up with some updates. Check out the Vibrant Life community if you want to just join our cleanse and do some of this deeper work with us in February. That would be all awesome. So much love to you guys, and may you guys be healthy and safe in this winter season. Start getting that vitamin D level up.